We are on. It is a moon day. Thanks to everyone that's chiming in, listening in. This is the Real HD Show, the higher discussion. This is the place where you want to be for that awareness so you can move fearless. Like the introduction said, we are here for you. It's the Real HD Show crew. And apropos, my crew is waiting backstage. So let's not keep them waiting. Let's get into it. So we got Brother Godspeed and Sister Aurora on strong. How y'all good people doing this evening?
Doing all right, doing all right. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. What's up?
Absolutely. And that search of freedom, justice, and liberation. All you know what I mean? For real, for real, for real though. How you doing, Sister Aurora? What's going on?
Oh, we're good. We're good. Been busy, but busy's good.
Busy is good. Busy is good. The right kind of busy, you know?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So before we get too far gone, make sure y'all been being skimpy on the stuff that don't cost y'all nothing, man. Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe, and turn on all your notifications. We really need this on the show, so that every time we have a higher discussion, you guys can join us. And you can also join us by this link below. Join us to talk your ish link, StreamYard.com, 5G, B5, GC, 3I, BN. And we appreciate anyone that's coming through, chiming in, takes their time to rock out with the Real HD Show, the higher discussion. So, we're here for this tonight. I'm going to try to get to this Sinners movie review. I know we've had so many great interviews and great things happening on the show that I didn't get a chance to actually take a deep dive into it. It's worth it. So we're going to attempt to do it on the screen this evening. Bear with us as we get to it. But before we do that, make sure we'll do our sponsors throughout the show. I'll get one out the way first. Total Package Energy, waters, zips, teas, gels. Man, athletic approved, Olympic tested. That's right, Olympic athletes took this all natural remedy for motivation, energy, and so on and so forth. Melanated company, got your best interests at heart. Go try out Total Package Energy at totalpackageenergy.com. Tell them the Real HD Show sent you. And please, while you can, and if you can, please give to the show, Cash App, the Real HD Show. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, oh man, we got a whole crew on here, brother. Mozzie on, what's happening, bro?
Hey, what's good, peoples?
Yeah, man, we doing this show tonight, man. Glad to have you on. Godspeed, Sister Aurora. We ready to go get them tonight. We ready to go get them. Yeah. So what we're gonna do first is start out with our elders and ancestors blueprint, and we're gonna do it a little different tonight, right? Because normally we would feature an act or an ancestor or an elder that has accomplished something great in the past. But tonight we want to mix up our elders and ancestors blueprint along with our stolen legacy moment, along with our lit city report. Because we think the actions that are embedded in this particular one hit on all three of those things. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into it like we're supposed to do it. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to get right there. Hopefully you guys can see that. All right. All right, man. Here we go.
Ancestors are on a mission. The identical twins from Louisiana are the proud owners of a plantation home, part of their mission to protect and preserve their community's history.
Yeah, talk about history. They are now sharing their fight against industrial companies that they claim are polluting and compromising the health of the predominantly Black population there. Also the site of the largest slave rebellion in U.S. history. Here's ABC's Faith Abube.
So the room that we are...
Twin sisters Joe and Joy Banner look at this historic house.
This house was built around 1793.
And they see more than just old real estate. Rather, walls that hold 200 years of history that cuts deep.
Freedom fighters would have come in through these doors.
Growing up, Joe and Joy's grandmother would tell the stories of how the 1811 slave revolt ignited right here on the Woodland Plantation. An estimated 500 slaves took up arms in the uprising, making it one of the largest slave revolts this country has ever seen. 2 centuries later, the Banner sisters, Louisiana natives, are now the first Black owners of the historic house and the 4-acre plantation it sits on, right in the river parishes just 30 miles north of New Orleans.
I know that she is really proud.
U.S. troops and local militias stopped the rebellion.
They were executed and their heads were chopped off, placed on pikes along the river as a symbol of this is what happens to you when you fight for freedom.
The sisters using their nonprofit, the Descendants Project, to try to preserve the history of this place and to protect the health of the people who live along the 85-mile stretch of land that sits on the banks of the Mississippi River, dubbed Cancer Alley. The area is surrounded by almost 200 industrial facilities from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, spewing emissions linked to cancer in the region. According to the EPA, those who live here are 95% more likely to get cancer compared to the rest of the nation. The EPA under President Biden called for the plants to reduce toxic emissions linked to cancer. Woodland Plantation is wedged inside the so-called chemical corridor.
The plantations provide three things that they need: large access to land, access to water, as well as an accommodating political system.
Joe is referring to zoning laws that changed in Louisiana in the 1980s and 90s, changing residential lands into industrial sites. Just this year, Human Rights Watch communities have failed for decades to protect locals from industrial pollution and uphold federal safety standards, making it the largest concentration of fuel plants in the Western Hemisphere. The Banner sisters are currently in the legal battle to stop Greenfield Louisiana LLC, a massive grain facility proposed in their backyard, saying it would do more harm than good, with the addition of more truck and boat pollution from added traffic and industry in an already vulnerable region. But Chad Roussel, a TSA employee and volunteer firefighter who can trace his family's lineage in the area back several generations, welcomes the economic benefits the facility is expected to bring.
They have talked about giving the younger folks a fair chance that, the older folks have gotten. Most of them have worked and retired from industry.
In a statement to ABC News, Greenfield says in part, the project will provide thousands of good-paying, environmentally sustainable jobs for local residents who have long sought such opportunity. Farmers can and should coexist with efforts to preserve and celebrate the rich history and cultural heritage of the West Bank.
But it's just like, I'm going to give you a job and you can just job away all of your problems.
Black people in the area fought for the Union Army during the Civil War, returned after being emancipated, and then pooled resources to buy the same lands where they once were enslaved.
That's why we have the Descendants Project, because we're still influenced by that fight.
All right. Thoughts and contributions. What do you guys think of that? I know that was a mouthful.
That's a lot.
But, in aggregate, what they were getting at was basically these two sisters bought one of the main sites of that existed on a plantation, and it was one of the main sites that was responsible for the 1811 slave revolt. Now, I thought they were going to mention Bacon Rebellion or Stone Oaks Rebellion or one of those things, but I forgot how big the rebellion of 1811 was. Even Haiti got involved in helping melanated people here in the United States with the Louisiana revolt of 1811. That's how significant that was. What do you guys think of that? Of buying that back, and is that a pattern we should do? Given the fact that a lot of our folks are complaining about the mother folks buying out and trying to change history, trying to change,
Well, when we can, we should. Property has always been key in this land, you can, so, and, I was always told by my parents, if you can own it, if you can buy it back, go buy it back. And so you see a lot of, like Tyler Perry is doing in Atlanta, he's buying up land that they said we weren't going to ever step on, and people are crossing, not just here in New York, but across the land. So if we can do it, we should. If we, they have groups around for investors in areas such as that. Out in South Carolina, they bought up a lot of what was known as Klan properties and plantations. So it's being done all over, and if we can, we should.
Given the state of food, given the state, and we've talked about that ad nauseum on the show, given the state of health, and given the state that we are the original agrarians of the planet, should those things be something that we consider as we move into a time where they doing 3D printed meat and they're doing, you know what I mean? We did that. We showed that on the show. They doing all kind of foo-foo la-la stuff with diets, putting all kind of carcinogens and what you pick.
Farmland is important.
Yeah. Is owning these properties and getting this land in order, can that be a respite for what we are eventually going to need as a people, as far as our
one of the things you have to recognize too is, if you buy land and it's for that purpose, you need to know how to run that land. So you can't just, or you need to be able to pull in like a kibbutz or how we used to do, and bring everyone on the land and those that can contribute, and you're making sure everybody has a place to lay down at night, and they kibbutz the land. And so that's how it had grown. There's not too many times where, we were able to, put up a, for hire sign. You hired those that you were going to help, and not only with that they would reciprocate by helping in the land, but you gave them room and board, and and you did things like that. So, but in today's world, yes, if we can, and if the concern is over food, and it should be, we need to know how to grow something, or to be able to have food that sustains us. It's not necessarily that you have to grow it. It could be something that's already there. People like to flavor bark lately, and whatever nourishes. So we have to go back to learning to eat to nourish, because otherwise we'll starve ourselves. Our brain will be like, we're starving. It's like, no, you need to know how to eat to nourish. And that's one of the things that as a people, we could be starting to do, because it's a training ground. It's a training ground. It's just like you train for Ramadan, After doing it so long, you don't recognize that you don't eat until, sundown or something like that, or till an evening hour. So it's a practice. And when we can learn how to do it, we do it. So that's just my say on it. And I'm so happy for those sisters that, were able to recoup the land. It's just like when we go to yard sales and things. These would always say, look for our property. So, you'd be looking for these little mammy things or stuff like that they're selling for 25 cents. And it's part of a richer a richer heritage. And so she's always saying, no, we're here looking for our stuff back. We used to go estate shopping and stuff like that. But yeah.
No doubt. Hey, brother Godspeed, man, I got a question for you. So as a Moor, right, and you're very intent on what goes on the land, the trust of the land, and how to execute that. How would you purport going about doing something like this? And do you think it would be healthy to do it in, I guess, opposition to what is happening right now with, we spoke about it privately, Department of the Interior, they want to take all of the trusts, all of the lands that are in a trust, and create housing developments on them, projects 2.0. You know what I mean? So do you think it would be better to aggregate funds, buy lands like this to combat what could be coming down the line? What do you think?
I mean, just to ride off of what Sister Aurora was saying, definitely get those lands. And I mean, the only thing I would say is experiment in the study of putting them underneath a trust, because better trust than other things. Also, too,
You're so right.
corporation as well in terms of like LLCs and things like that too. But I would say look at a trust, because at least with a trust, it's not something that is as easy to take to court then, you know. They often say, you get a trust, you have more control on it. You see, it's not about owning, it's about controlling. Because they
Yeah.
say,
Now we talking.
own nothing but control everything. And a trust is one of the things that you could use, especially if you don't put the trust in your family's name. You want to do the trust in a different type of name, and then you're going to have your trustee, trustor, and beneficiary. Or I should say your trustor, trustee, beneficiary, in that order. So I would say it's something to look into, is getting it underneath a trust. Maybe a vast estate trust and things like that. There's a lot of fancy language, but all of it does matter in this case. A vast estate is kind of like what they like to like what some temples like to say the Moorish Science Temple of America is. And you're going to get some Moorish Americans. Let me distinguish between Moors and Moorish Americans. You know what I mean? Who might take offense to you calling it a vast estate trust. But when it's signed underneath the 1872 Religious Corporation Act, it started putting it in that lane, and that's Noble Drew Ali did that. You know what I mean? Um, it puts it in that lane, which means that it becomes a bit of a religious nation state. People could put their land underneath something like that too, as long as they don't owe taxes from the offset. If you owe taxes, you're gonna have to pay those taxes back no matter who you say you are. I don't care if you think that you are indigenous, Native, Moorish American, or if you just think that you're one of the Iroquois tribes. If you owe tax, you're gonna have to pay that back, because of the simple fact that it's things that you always point out, with folks who are nation building versus people who already built a nation. They got a strong army.
Yes.
Right. Even when we did our thing, like what I love about you is that you really have an idea of how many towns and towns that we had as original people on this land, even after Reconstruction and all that. Like most of us could only just kind of name how much. Go ahead. How much?
No, I
How
was going to
much?
say is over 80. Yeah, over 80 townships.
Over 80. You see, most of us could only name two.
Right.
Most of us in the general public can only name two. You know what I'm
Well, it's not
saying? But
about how many,
like,
because I can't name them all, but I've seen the
right,
layout and studied it, and it's pretty.
right, and you did.
What's the guy's name? In the
Mhm.
redlining book he put, he has it in there as well.
Okay. No, but the
That
good
Rob,
thing is that you did it on your show. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
forget the
You
guy
put the
who did
information out there.
yeah, I forget the white guy who did the initial book on redlining. He has it laid out in there as well.
Yeah, I got to get my hands on that. I'm actually interested in that, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
rewind this show and get that name. But like with all it said is come down to is you got to find a way to properly protect it lawfully and corporately, because that is a thing, right? And also too, then after a while, like you say, people gonna have to decide a nation bill, because when you have a huge plot of land like that, after a while, you're gonna have to nation bill. You can't get around it. I mean, Kanye West bought land out there and he's building something, but I just hope he realizes, you know, that he's gonna have to know how to guard that land. That's the
Yeah,
that's the thing.
yeah. It's called Color of Law by Richard Rothstein.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the name of
Yeah,
the book. And those
yeah.
townships are talked about in that book, and
Okay,
including a gang of like sundown towns. So he's kind of
copy that.
he's making the analysis between real estate and degradation of our folks throughout the years, as far as living and residing and getting housing mortgages and Racial Covenants. Go check that out. It's a good book. I read it a long time
I'm gonna
ago.
check that out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check that out. But I would definitely say trust, the family trust. Get a family trust. Get the land underneath a family trust. Get all your assets underneath a family trust. Because what they like to say, where there's a will, there's a way to drag you in court. So that's why people say go to trust versus wills.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Brother Mozzie, anything on this real quick? Sisters brought the land of a old plantation and the site of one of the illest slave rebellions in the nation's history. Good or bad thing? Should we be moving toward agrarian lifestyle in mass? 15-minute cities, all of that stuff in tow. What's your thoughts, bro?
I guess what are they planning on doing with the property?
They didn't really go into the future of it. They're fighting against that company who wants to, that has those green visions.
Well, the way I look at it is, we need to be buying property that is strategic. We shouldn't just be buying and be buying. I have issues with buying. That's just me personally. I don't want to be buying no former plantation, whether we was an uprising or not. The fact that it was a former plantation, I'm not with it. I'm not feeling it. But it's great that we are buying acres of land. And we should also promote and talk about brothers and sisters who are buying acres of land, not just people who have bought the former slave master's property. Because even though there was a slave revolt, there was before that slave revolt, there was probably a lot more, a lot of things that went on that weren't all that, all that copacetic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so we need to be, we got to be strategic. Let's buy land, but let's be strategic. Is that property even? One of the issues is whether the property, if they're going to do some farming, for example. One of the things that we know happened with a lot of that property was, they weren't good. They weren't good. They're not that fertile because of the farming that took place, the overuse and things of that nature. So if you're buying these old plantations, they've been sitting there vacant for a reason. You know what I mean? And that's why I say why we have to be strategic. We seem to always buy stuff that those who have studied and know what's going on have tossed away. And then we'll go and buy it. Marcus Garvey,
Oh man, you sound like folk. Now you sound like my Knicks, man. We always buying free agent superstars that's over the hill.
Yeah. So, and like I said, man, I applaud the sisters for what they've done. Ownership on our part is we need to get involved in that large scale. We need to buy land. What did Malcolm say? It's the landlords against the landless. And we need to become landlords so that the other landlords, to be a one-on-one, showdown. But we just got to be strategic, man.
Yeah, I put those.
Why we buying it?
I put that video on because I'm hoping to get to the review of the Sinners movie, and here we have another set of twins, and there's several of them that have impacted, our history in many instrumental ways, and that's one that those two are currently getting it done, and I thought that would be cool to highlight it. So let's jump right into our AAT report, Aero Aqua Terra. Anything under the land, sea, or air we're going to cover that will make you healthy. Let's check it out. Let's just jump right in it. Here we go. Real HD Show.
It's time for Maccabee to do a rhyme. Today it's a rhyme about time, culinary herb medically inclined. Time has really stood the test of time. In the pyramids, a time them find, used for embalming the mummy in kind, preserving the body for the divine. Yes, from ancient Egypt, they know about the health benefit. Antibacterial, antiseptic, antifungal, antibiotic, respiratory, digestive, diuretic. Make a tea, you can infuse it. Time oil, people use it. Seasoning, make you refuse it. Time big. In a Jamaican cuisine, a lot of good recipes have a theme. Long time it dep on the scene. Should have its own Time magazine. Time flies, but I realize time's a repellent of insect and flies. Got many uses, fresh or dried. Love the versatility nature provide. Food and medicine combine. That's the way that nature designed. Oh yes, that is the last line, cause sadly I have run out of time. A medical Monday. Yes, I am.
Maccabee doing it again
Mega dope.
with
Mega
with a
dope.
dope
Mega dope.
one.
Mega dope.
Yeah, love the flow, love the information, love the awareness.
Mega
If
dope.
anybody at home wants to, you got something, Sister Aurora? You want to tap in? Go ahead.
Oh no,
Oh, it looked
I'm
like you wanted
good.
to say. No, I
No, I
was going to say
was
if
trying to
anybody
turn up
got
my
anything.
thing.
Okay, so if anybody has anything on, watching right now, you want to make a comment or what have you, time is an essential herb and ingredient. I use it currently. I didn't even see that video yet. It just came in my inbox, and I said, "Hey, let me put it out there for the people. Anybody got any reference to it? Want to respond to it? Super, super dope herb to use within your food, or just you could even steam it into a tea. Tap in if you want to talk about time. I just want to do that as our regular health mark on the show, and we are going to keep it moving. Um, hey man, so we gonna talk about some local news, man. Brother Mozzie, let's get to it, man. So you remember when this brother went through this horrific experience with uh he was a firefighter invited to a party, and it was
Yes.
more like an ambush because he walked into an episode of I don't know what you want to call it, but he walked into a chaotic episode of racism at its finest in you know Rochester, New York, the region of Rochester, New York. And what's going on with this currently is they had him in a what they call a buyout, right? So they settled on the particular case that was going on, and then Adam Bello, and who is the county representative, and um, what's her name, Barnhart, got into it because Barnhart represented the brother here that was discriminated against at this party. Imagine, if you will, you get invited to a party at a colleague's house, and you walk in, and there's like chicken and watermelon flyers all over the place, posters of Sambo and Jim Crow figures all over the place, and people are, laughing at your expense. You're the butt of the joke as you walk into that place. And they gave him about 150K and a couple years worth of pay. And but this particular article that was in the Minority Reporter, bro, I don't know if you saw it yet. This is focusing on the entanglement between Bello and Barnhart. You up on this, or what's your thoughts on the whole?
I have not up on the latest particulars of it, but I do remember the case where he went out to it was during the election time and he was invited out. So he think it's just, hey, another political party, and the joke's on him. You know what I mean? So I didn't really follow that case too much.
Well, the dentist who was hosting the party, this mega rich dentist, he sued Barnhart for her public words supporting the young brother here and his trauma that he went through. And he sued Barnhart, and then Barnhart reached out to Bello for support, and they got into a tug of war over that. And the whole point of this, Sister Aurora, is I have a problem, and I want to know if anybody else has a problem. If there's a racial incident that goes on and it basically terrorizes and traumatizes a melanated person in a country, and then when it makes national news, they compartmentalize that issue down to a court technicality, or take the focus off of the person who is actually violated and puts it on these people that have really nothing to do with the event that happened. They're talking about Bello and Barnhart. That had nothing to do with the dentist who hosted the party, the firefighters that made him go to the party, and his trauma at the party by which he was racially terrorized by. So what do you guys think of that? You know, because I'm sure there's all kinds of examples where you should be focusing on at-large issue, and then it gets whittled down due to, you know, purposeful and willful intent of, you know, macro media and so on and so forth, and takes the onus away from who's really at fault in the circumstance.
Well, you know, the sad thing about it is that when you look at the local politics here, it's a situation where Bello, Democrat, you know, but he's a suburban Democrat, which is to me is really funny. But Democrats in general, when it comes to race issues, have a very horrible record.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And for some reason, we just don't seem to get that. It seems like race issues are very prevalent when Democrats are in control. And then Black people really get punched in the mouth when they get in office. In this area, remember, for the longest, the suburban, like most cities in America, cities are Democrat, suburbs are Republican. The suburbs win the county for the first, Democrats win the suburbs for the first time. They don't, and they act just as bad as the Republicans. As a matter of fact, Republicans don't even engage you as hard on race issues. They're busy trying to skirt the laws. They're busy trying to do a lot of crooked stuff, which is kind of funny because we look at Republicans as being very racist, but the actual racist activities or prejudicial activities or bigoted activities that take place under the Democratic Party when they get in control.
That's interesting. What do you think, Luck? Do you think this is a situation where, you know, in a real life Get Out moment, you become the butt of the joke, you become the guest of honor that gets your that gets embarrassed and gets, you know, racially traumatized, and then, you know, the media that be, the powers that be, the macro verse turns it into a tug of war between two politicians instead of what actually happened, boots on the ground. What's your thoughts?
I got to spin the block back on it. I ain't gonna hold you up. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it as y'all was building on it. So I
All
might
right,
end
well,
up rewinding this
let
one
me
and
just
coming
put it
back
real
to it.
easy. Let me just put it real easy. This brother was a firefighter. He was, you know how when you were in a certain, like, you know, network of people, especially if you're on a job. It's happened to me a bunch of times as a teacher. Oh, we're doing this thing. Come hang out with us, and then you go hang. And of course, it's for the job, so you gotta save face and go. You really don't want to go, but you go, and you agree and you partake of, just for a little. Like for me, I only got so much tolerance for it. I got about 15 minutes for most of that stuff, and then I'm going. You know, but he walks into this man's mansion, McMansion, whatever you want to call it, and he sees all this racist memorabilia all over the place. Chicken and watermelon is being served. He's the butt of an extremely harmful, terroristic, racist joke. And they expected him to go along with it, shuck and jive, man, tan it up, and act like nothing happened. And he went and, you know, advocated for himself, you know, sued, and then of
So
course,
pretty much it's almost like he got hazed.
Right. That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it. And now, in the aftermath of this incident that happened years ago, they want to make it out like that incident didn't matter. What mattered was these two, you know, represented elected officials, you know, backbiting at each other forget what happened to the young man and his prospects for a career in firefighting. The PTSD that was gained during that event. Now it's about two politicians and what they're doing. Because forbid the fact that we ever focus on and ever really bring remedy to a racial attack in the United States. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's always some white woman who is fighting the cause, which is funny, which is even more funnier, is that this white woman is taking up the cause when we have other black politicos in the city that sit around and do literally nothing. So you know, you kind of give her the fist bump because she is trying to fight the good fight, and she's trying to make sure that the issues, things that are taking place, just if it ain't right, it ain't right. She tries to call it out, but I think sometimes, our European counterparts, they don't seem to really, they don't get the nuances, and it's not that they, good, bad, or indifferent people. It's just, you got some people who are going to fight the good fight, but they don't understand those subtle nuances of the issue. So what happens, and it looks like a political fight. But the sad part is we don't seem to have melanated folks who are politically involved enough to actually get involved and actually add clarity to what the issues are and to fight the good fight right along with her. And we have,
I see where you're coming from there with that. Wow.
And what I'm noticing, not just here in this country, but around the country, is that a lot of our politicians, melanated politicians, are lazy. They are some lazy freaking people, man. And I hate to say that and to sound like that, but they are. They are, man. They don't want to get up and get out and do the things that are necessary. Because here's the reason, and I'm going to give you the fundamental reason why. Most of our folks who get into politics because it's a great job. It pays well. It's not 9 to 5. And if you're on city council or county ledge, you're basically going to work about two days out of the month. You have your committee meetings that you sit on, and then another committee meeting that you have to sit on, and then maybe a council meeting that happens once a month. So maybe 3 days, 4 days out of the year, maybe 1 day a week, maybe. And some of these guys, depending on how long they've been there, they're making $30,000-$40,000. Yo, bro, that's the best gig in town. And then that doesn't even highlight the other aspects and perks of the position. You go to your favorite restaurant, before you know, they know who you are. You probably get to eat there for free. You need some things done around, you need some work done in your house. Somebody's going to do the work on your house for you for free. So there's a lot of other things that come with it. Then as far as people donating to your campaign, you build up a war chest. You went in office owing $30,000 in debt. And by the time you've out of office your first year, or you finish your first term, you can be finishing in the black 30,000. And then if you put in, like some of these folks have, because once you get in, we have lazy voters. Once you're in, we don't go and try to see that the person who was in office was garbage. We just keep voting for them over and over and over. So that's how you get some of these brothers who, this dude's been on state legislature for 20 years. And you'd be like, how does he keep being? He ain't doing crap. Because as voters, we're lazy, and so it helps our politicians to be lazy. Because as M. Tume once said, we're episodic with a 2-week memory, and so we good.
Yeah, man, and it helps that the APAC folks is, butter and biscuits real nice these days,
There you go.
You know, and if they tell you to stay away from an issue, you lay it like you don't see it.
One of the many points that Brother Mozzie just made, he made a good grip of useful points. The one that
Well,
caught my ears when he said that a lot of melanated politicians are lazy, right? And
Mhm.
that even if you get, say you get a so-called white person that's helping a brother or sister that got caught up like this brother did, situations like that and others, they don't have the connection enough to who we are to go about things a certain way. But then there's those of us in the positions that could even aid that person, kind of, guide them a little bit more along the line, utilize them as a Trojan horse to kind of, use them as a battering ram against the system. Because that's what I would do. I would have somebody like that. It's almost like having a person front, having a so-called white person front for you when you're the one that's really selling the house. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I got out of what he was saying in a sense, is that there's none of us who are willing to do something, in the position to do something, and even to use people like chess pieces, like that white lawyer lady that he was talking about. She could be used as a chess piece, because my thing is more like not trying to run those. My thing is always like, look, create more friends, get more aid, because, hey, look, let's keep it real. People talk about using people. Using people ain't a bad thing. It's about the motives behind using someone. I'm gonna be honest with you. We all use people. I use people. Sometimes I use people just for the word love, but I'm using them. I get that love that I'm looking for is reciprocated. They were used. You know what I'm saying? But there's negative and positive use. And in a case like this, I agree with him. I don't know if you see my perspective, but when he opened up on that, it just like opened up a different perspective for me that goes along with other perspectives I have. You know what I'm saying? So my thing is like, it's almost like the time to kill situation. You have McConaughey, the lawyer, for whatever his own personal reasons was, he was gung ho Joe trying to help Samuel Jackson's character for whatever his own reasons were. You know what I'm saying? In his mind, he's some kind of hero trying to jump over buildings in a single bound, but he's helping the guy. You know what I mean? And then at first, you could see some of the local ministers. They had their own ways about going about things. The melanated ministers, and at first, they didn't really want to rock with McConaughey. But Samuel Jackson pulled up on them like, look, this guy's the one that's helping me, back him. You know what I'm saying? Let's use him, you know? But, when Brother Mozzie said that, it drudged up a lot of that stuff in my mind. I was like, wow, good points.
Well, here's a point of information, too. Rachel Barnhart used to be she's a very successful journalist and news personality. She was never a lawyer, but her parents are very well connected throughout, historically in Rochester. So, she still has, she comes to argue in politics because she knows that financially her parents got her back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so what I mean by that is a lot of non-melanated people who go into politics, they've already been established, so they can fight the fight because there's nothing you can do to them financially because they have certain backing or they're very successful in what they do and have done. So they can speak and they're free to speak and they're free to fight the fight. But what a lot of our folks who go in there, we're hoping that this is, this will help us this is a come up for a lot of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And I'll remind everybody about that WEF conversation that I blasted, where they were talking about how and why certain people are chosen. How do you become a chosen? How do you become picked? How do you become chose? And they say, listen, man, we scoping it all. We scoping the young ones. We scoping the ones currently graduating from college. And if we see you in that path, we gonna intervene, and we gonna put some money on it, and in an attempt to make you one of them. You know what I'm saying? So I wanna get to this thing right here, because Mozzie brings up a great point about a lot of our politicians not helping us, especially when they come from our people. Have y'all heard of this newest executive order what Trump wants to do with the HBCUs?
Say it again.
I said, have you guys heard of that newest executive order that Trump wants to do with the HBCUs?
Last I knew, he was trying to make sure that white kids can get into the schools.
Yeah, so this is his newest initiative, and there's a couple of sections within this initiative that's interesting. So it's a section 2 portion of this that you want to kind of focus on if you want to go to this particular White House website and see what they're talking about. Okay, so it says working to advance my administration's related promoting innovation and excellence through HBCUs in consultation with HBCUs leaders, representatives, and alumni. Very interesting. Then if you go down to G and H, it says partnering. Trump wants the HBCUs leaderships to partner with private entities and elementary and secondary education stakeholders, okay, to build a pipeline for students that might be interested in attending HBCUs and to promote affordable degree attainment. Then, of course, Brother Luck, encouraging states to provide and require state matching funds for the 1890 land grant institutions that most HBCUs are a part of. Then they say, then there's a council, there's a president's board of advisors on HBCUs. He wants to establish this, Brother Mozzie. He wants to erase the old board and bring in his new board of whomever he handpicks. And it says the board under HBCU Partners Act 20 USC 1063E, the board shall include representatives of a variety of factors such as philanthropy, education, business, finance, entrepreneurship, innovation, private funds, and current HBCU presidents. Now, you saw Homegirl during her particular run. She had a Boulé conference where she was keynoting at the Boulé conference. And as I'm reading all of the presidential order as it laid out and as it reads, it speaks a lot of, I hear a lot of Boulé language in that. Because why would you be interested in gutting all of the old members of the HBCU board of advisors and installing your own?
Political patronage. He's paying back those black folks who have sold their souls and have supported him, and he needs to change that regime that's currently in there now. That is, they're so loyal to the Democratic Party that they're blind, they can't see straight.
Yeah, so Sister Aurora, what do you think of situations like this where this is the titling that's going on? White House initiative to promote excellence and innovation at historical Black colleges and universities. Sounds great, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it's everything you might want, right?
Yep.
And then once you consider the source, you're like, hold up. Hold up a second. Say what? Say what again? You gonna gut the whole advisory board and
Right.
You're gonna make a focus on technology and innovation when Black colleges have been asking for facelifts and uplifts and budget updates for decades.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thoughts on that?
No, I just giggle because it ain't the first time I heard it.
Oh, okay.
And then you think of what's moved forward. So again, You know, that we can't fall out the fold just because, you know, when Howard came out and said, look, we'll help other smaller HBCUs because, you know, we got $1 billion endowment. And then when people are starting, when you got the Ivy League starting to say, hey, we'll pitch in, and they're like, no, we got to stop all that. So we're going to first take a long time to get this initiative going. Okay. I mean, nothing moves because you want to assimilate into it, but it's not the first time. We've heard it all the way since Reagan. You know,
Yeah,
who's giving you
wasn't there
money
supposed to
to
be
educate
some
yourself?
grandiose?
You know,
Wasn't there supposed to be some grandiose Trump and Biden effort to subsidize HBCUs when they both first got in office?
And believe it or not,
Didn't they all make these grandiose promises?
Trump did do something. Trump did give money in his first administration, but it didn't yield the results that he wanted. And the results was, as Trump always wants you to do, he wants people to idolize him and be loyal to him.
Yeah, and when that time comes, kiss the ring.
But you know what though? As our HBCUs wouldn't even have to go through this if they would beef up their gift giving department and the alumni department, and if they would indoctrinate every student that goes there from time they start as a freshman to the time they graduate, just like we have subscriptions to Netflix, how we have subscriptions to HBO. We ain't even got to do a monthly subscription. If you can get every HBC graduate for the past 50 years that's still alive and that's financially able to do so, if they can give back $50 a year, all our organizations will be very solvent and will have and can grow very large endowments practically overnight.
So, Brother Godspeed, you're not wrong, bro. And, you know, we've talked ad nauseum about that. Brother Godspeed, why do you think this sort of thing doesn't happen much? To the point now that we're, you know, HBCUs are at the mercy of, you know, this land grant situation. And then also, you know, they need to, you know, they want to move to keep up with the age of innovation. They need to, you know, come with their hands out. What are your thoughts?
Like, there's certain parts of it I don't understand, you know, to be honest with you. I just look at it from a real cultural simpleton's perspective.
That's
Can
the
a
best
devil
way.
can a devil fool a Muslim? Not nowadays, bro.
Yeah. I mean,
This
honestly,
guy rolling in town like he's first of all trying to help anything with black on it. You know what I'm saying? Like really? Like, there's always gonna be some form of trickery there. I mean, these are people. His lobbyists want to burn books. They want to burn books.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The guy who's some of his lobbyist, you know, groups want to burn books. Burn what books? The books that got our history in it, like whatever tiny little smidget of stuff we have in social studies, which ain't shit. Well, which ain't, pardon me, which ain't nothing anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I really, look, anything he's done, has it helped, right? You took, what's her name, Linda McMahon, to body slam the Board of Ed. I mean, you got a guy who takes squirrels in his teenage years. He took, according to his own relative. So I'm just able to go off of what I can see and what I can hear. I can't say that I know this. I can say that what I say is what they say. And who are they? They is Kennedy's relative. They is Kennedy's cousin. Talking about he's taking squirrels and putting them inside of blenders and mashing them up while they're still alive in the blender in front of his friends.
That sounds
And
like
this is the guy this is the head of health.
Right.
Everybody he's put in place, quite honestly, from my eyes view on the news, don't appear to be somebody who's like culturally or politically, like, what's the word I'm trying to find, into the department that he put them into. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know these are plants, of course.
So him approaching black colleges. So him approaching black colleges, I'm interested to see. I mean, and I don't mean this like I want to see what he's going to do with it, but it's going to happen. So now that you guys are putting me on to this, because I don't know about this, I was keeping up with a bunch of stuff that's going on, because there's always something going on with him and his minions. You know what I'm saying? So this is something I'll kind of keep an eye on from this point forward. But that's how I see it, real simpleton, because I don't know too much about it. But I just say to myself, with everything else that's going on, his constituents want to burn black, what we call black history. So now he's going to the black colleges to help them. I don't get that's an oxymoron.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt your flow.
My rant.
No, it's all good. It's all good. That's why we're here. You know, we're here to tell it like it is, tell it from the chest, and you know, hopefully we can gain something from it. So I brought up the White House piece, Sister Aurora, because this looks like the glamour so that you can invite me in. Check.
Mm-hmm.
Don't that look like the glamour?
Well, it does. It have an official, presidential, political look to it.
Yeah, but what he's offering looks like it's the panacea. Sure. You're gonna help us out, you're gonna endow us, you're gonna do and then you put out executive order that looks all nice, neat, and shiny. And then when you get into the weeds of it all, they're talking about some real compromising things, Sister Aurora. And the reason why I brought that up is we're getting ready to jump into the review of a movie where some folks had some glamour put on them so that they could be invited in. And once they were invited in...
Oh, I should have known you was going to go there.
Once they were invited in. So did anybody here, beside myself, see the movie Sinners?
I haven't seen it yet.
I saw it.
I saw it yesterday. Because I was like, I know this was coming up Monday.
Guy? Does that matter to you?
Nah.
Okay. Mozzie might take like 5 years to see the movie. Man,
it's on my list, man. It's on my list.
I got better things to do. But I'm here to tell you that this movie's worth your time. And I think Ryan Coogler he's made a masterpiece. And I think it needs the attention that it needs, and it's drawing the box office that it's drawing because it has so much depth and so much, relativity. Sister Aurora, your first thoughts on the movie Sinners?
Well, again, the fact that they were twins, you already knew there was going to be a duality to it, you know, and you know,
talk that talk. Let's hear about the duality. Let's go. I'm here for it.
Well, the contrasts were definitely going to come in against characters, you know. One wearing the black hat, one wearing the white hat, one wearing the, this, that. The one that gets referred to as the good one or the bad one, and all these contrasts in characters that they've had. You know, the black woman that they thought was white, even black folk didn't know what she was, and now she's like, okay, so it had a lot in it. What I really liked about it was, again, just in that Coogler way, and in that way that they blend up, when they had this just full scene that blended historically dance and music, just rolled in naturally inside of it. And then, and I'm like, and everybody caught that, like, wow, they did it from
the joint scene with the
and they did it from the roots.
Going to town, that was fire.
Yeah, and then even
I would say this though, I have not seen the movie, and I will see the movie because on social media, this movie has shaken folks.
Yes.
And the second thing is done, it has caused some people to awaken. So it's moved people in all different type of directions.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've seen the one brother, I think I sent it to you. I think I might have sent it to you, who was talking about the movie's demonic. He couldn't tell you what was demonic about the movie, but the movie's demonic. And this, I know I had to send that to you, man, because the brother sat there and said that God put us in slavery. We had to go through slavery in order to get to him, or something like that, man. Freaked me out when I heard this statement. I'm like,
There's speaking of that, there's my wife showed me a Georgia preacher. It's either Georgia, it's Alabama. Sorry, it was an Alabama preacher, and he was saying the exact same thing.
yeah, he's saying that that we were supposed to go through. God made us go through slavery so that we can accept Him.
Mm.
And this is, and what was crazy about it, all of this off this movie. And I'm saying to myself, damn, this movie is shaking folks, man.
That's what made me want to do the review more than anything else, is because I've been trying to do the review of this movie for quite some time, for a couple of weeks now.
I know you have.
And we've had a lot of great interviews in the meantime, between time. But as I'm looking at responses to the movie that I thought was great, there's they're back with the Beyonce worships the devil language again.
Right. I hear it. I hear it all the time, man. Just being a Mason, and I do wear a necklace with a square and compass. And since the movie's been out, there's been a renewed interest, and seeing and looking at me like, yo, I didn't know you was into that stuff. I'm like,
all of a sudden you're into that stuff, right?
Years. I've been into this. But
all of a sudden you're into that stuff, right?
Right. and you know how it is too, man. If people know more about the stuff that you're into than you know about it.
Of course, always.
You know what I mean?
It's the American way.
But I find it funny, and so this movie, man, I think we need to look at it as the brother has done something very ingenious.
Yes.
And I've listened to some other stuff on how he brought out what's the young brother who was the guitar player at the crossroads. That portion, how he invoked that in the movie.
Robert Johnson.
Robert Johnson. Yeah, and so it's all this different stuff, and I'm sitting there like saying to myself, man, I got to make time to see this movie, and folks are freaking out. But then on the flip side, there's other folks who was it's like, oh my God, they were talking about the Orishas and and I'm just like, oh my goodness, they're throwing it. Sister was like, oh, I just felt so liberated, and I just never felt so culturally moved by a movie before. I'm sitting there like, wow, I got my man Tons over here talking about his demonic, and we had to go through slavery to find God and as a people. And then this dude over here, this sister over here talking about how liberating it was and how refreshing it was and how she was really energized. So this movie has really, really, from what I'm seeing, is definitely a movie for the times, because not many movies out there has moved people the way this movie has moved people.
Right.
Yeah, not since the Django.
No, better.
Well,
you see, I look at it
Django pretty much was just a love story.
The Django meets Dusk Till Dawn with some real spirituality dealing.
I said Dusk Till Dawn.
I see it as the Django meet Dusk Till Dawn, but with some real spiritual foundations, talking about the unknown. You know what I'm saying? What is the unknown? Like what I loved about it, and we're going to really get into it. What I really love about it is a few things, right? But the one thing I'm going to jump on real quick is the fact that they talk about entering the world of the unknown, meaning that is death part of life, or is life part of death? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And they touch on it. They touch on it to a degree where they try to. Then Coogler has this theme in his movies, even in Black Panther. He wanted to remove the fear of becoming part of the original essence once again. He wants to.
He's had many interviews where he's talked about Yoruba and Ifa. So he's Ifa.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't know.
That's his cultural backdrop with his family.
Right.
It seems to me like, because he's put this in a lot of his, like if you look at Black Panther Part 2, funeral scene. You
Yeah.
could see a lot of, Yoruba Ifa influence
Yes.
in the
Yes.
symbolism.
Yes.
And that
Celebration of life.
scene, it was heavy.
Yes.
That scene, it was heavy Ifa
Absolutely.
influence.
I loved it. Absolutely.
And, not for nothing, it gets bastardized as hoodoo and voodoo and all of the things that white people are scared of.
Right. I want
But
to. Yeah.
that's one of our spiritual systems
You
that has
see, like
transferred across land masses to continue to be a force for us here now,
Right. And you see, like what Brother Mozzie was saying, that those people were saying, oh, something about it is demonic. They can't tell you what it is because, again, they back on their Hardy Boys mysteries, talking about voodoo, and they don't know anything about Yoruba or Voodoo. None of that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They think black people doing black magic. That's how like narrow-minded they are. They still trapped within the colorable codes from 1691 when they created the white person status and then come afterwards with the black status and yada, yada, yada. They caught up with the Negro, black, and colored as in Negro, Negra, and Necro. You know what I'm saying? They trapped in all of that because those are stereotypes rested on our people, or should I say branded on our people from Spain to here for so long that anything we do, they're going to see it as quote unquote dark magic. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that the color black or dark or whatever is a bad thing. I'm just saying that in the context that they slap these titles on us, that it's meant to be in a bad context and it's meant to put a thumbs down on everything that we do, everything that we come from. They reinvent. They've been canceling us since 1492 and even before that in certain other places. You know what I'm saying? So this movie's great. I also see like Remick, the Irish vampire. I look at him as Pan the music demon. You know what I'm saying? I saw the Pan the music demon influences coming through him as he was craving for the voice of that great one that he heard. He wanted him to become his number one soldier and luring more people into his trap. You know what I'm saying? So there was just so much nourishment in the movie, man. Like they're trying to teach you how not to fear what they like to call death, which could have a different name. Some people like to say transitioning now. Some of us like to say returning back to the essence for umpteen decades now. Some of us like to say becoming one with the energy once again. Some people believe it's to go and come back. Some people believe that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying anybody's wrong. You know, I'm saying that it's an unknown territory because other than me with my spiritual belief system of having sometimes ancestors in my dreams, you know what I'm saying, and other things in my dreams that I write down, you know what I mean? Just other things, you know. So they just trying to bend the stereotypes on us. But you look at Mary Jane. Well, I called her Mary Jane, Mary, right? Stack's girlfriend, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I saw where you was going with this early, Vic. I saw where you was going with this. She the Trojan horse, right? Now, mind you, she was a two-way Trojan horse because at first Stack was using her to be his Trojan horse to see what Remick, the Irish vampire, was all about, and if they had money, right? But then when Remick flipped her because he gave her the gold, she was all mystified over it, turned her back, trusted him by turning her back, which was weird. I was like, golly, dude, like, girl, like, really? So she turned her back on this dude. He levitates, he turns her, he Trojan horses her back to the original sender of the Trojan horse, which is Stack, and even and she went in there and completely flipped Stack over, flipped him over. He was supposed to be a sober soldier on the job, much like his brother was. And his brother know he's weak that way because his brother told a nephew early in the flick, yo, watch my brother. This Negro here don't know how to take care of himself. He don't know how to watch out for himself. He can't see it coming sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of these things just correlated and correlated and correlated. Even when Saul, the minister of Saul, right? I forget the minister's name in here, right? But
yeah,
Saul,
you're talking about
that was his
Samuel's
dad.
father, the preacher boy, his father.
Yeah, his father. You know that Saul, right, Vic?
Of course, I was getting ready. That was going to be my next question.
I know that. Okay, cool. So Preacher Boy's father, at the beginning of the flick, much like some of the poetic parables in the Bible, how they like to tell a future before it comes in the writings, right? Like, things like in the Cain and Abel situation where they like to say that God told Eve that, one's heel is going to stomp on one's head, and then came Cain and Abel's dispute, right? Well, Saul looked at his son and said, listen, son, don't go out there. Stay here. Don't continue to dance with the devil, because if you continue to dance with the devil, one day you're going to bring it home. And then when you henceforward into the film, this is what happened with Mary Jane.
Yeah. So let's stay on that point because I want to get Sister Aurora's opinion on.
Now I call her Mary Jane. My bad. Her name ain't Mary Jane.
Whatever her name is in the movie, I forgot her name too. I'll just call her the mixed girl, right?
It's part of my metaphor, though. I call her Mary Jane because she's the drug.
I wanted
she's the
a
gateway
sister's
drug.
opinion. My wife told me how she felt about it, but I wanted a sister's opinion on the dichotomy between Annie and the mixed girl that was in love with Stack.
Mary. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of? What was your thought on the dichotomy of those two characters, and even for the fact that Annie stood up for her when the cat came to the door trying to get her, and she was like, "Nah, she ain't going nowhere. She family."
Yeah.
Just for her to turn around and do this, get glamored. And like Brother Luck said, get offered that slice of gold and be one of the main reasons why all of the chaos happened. What's your thoughts, sis, on the two characters? And I thought they were a dichotomy. If you think different, then let me know.
Yeah, because I didn't have no thoughts on that particular relationship. They both love Stack. I didn't have any thoughts on that.
No, one loved Smoke and one loved Stack.
Right, but no, she ended up the one who got eaten first, the brother who got eaten first. That was both of their men. That was both of their men at one point in time, right? Annie was Annie's man, and she was the biracial girl's man.
No, not Annie was with Smoke.
Yeah,
and then Stack was with Mary.
Yeah.
Right. I thought they had both been with him because isn't that how it ended in the end? They had both been with him.
No.
Oh, okay. See, that's because I didn't think anything about that. Sorry. I had no thoughts in that relationship whatsoever while I was watching that movie. No thoughts. Cool. No thoughts. I thought more so of how of how all of the cultures, and especially cultures that I'm familiar with, not only the African one, but the Native American and the Asian one, all kind of blended. We all had that base belief that kind of kept us a little further into the show before getting killed or glammed or whatever it was. But on the other thing, I didn't even look at that as a relationship.
No, not that they had a relationship.
But just between the three, I did not look at any dynamics of those
they did have a relationship because all of them kind of grew up together.
Grew up together
in the same parish. And that's the only reason why she even let her come through, via her.
It's because they all went to school together.
Right. Because they had relativity because of where they lived and how they grew up. But then they had very different paths in the movie. You know what I mean? Annie was the root worker. She was the E5 representative. She was the through line continuation of spirituality for our people. And then this one represented do what you like, be out there, be risque, all of those other things. And then of course, not to leave. They told everyone was told not to leave. She left anyway, got her behind glamored by the vampires, singing
hold on, but we don't want to miss out that she was sent out there though. I don't want to.
She went to go spy on him at first. But
she was sent out. She was sent out. Let's not dismiss that. She was sent out.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, that was kind of apropos because of what she represented. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's layers to it. There's so many layers to it.
But it didn't protect her. You know what I mean?
No.
So I thought their two paths were really, really interesting. And I like Smoke. Smoke was aligned with Annie. and
Mm-hmm.
Stack was aligned with Mary, and of course at the very end. What did y'all think of that end scene where Stack comes back with her, Mary, to see Sammy as an older man, still playing the blues,
Yep.
still rocking his guitar.
Right.
Yep.
That lets you know what path he went on after his dad, after you saw his dad telling him to drop the guitar. And so you never saw him drop the guitar. And so when seeing him age, you knew which path he chose for himself and to be happy, to be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing, I just kind of think, because he knew they were vampires, that they visited him in every time that he grew, that he grew through. That they made a visit to him through every time because he wasn't scared. He knew their awareness. He was very aware. Those are the same buddies that he kind of grew up with, and that they were vampires. But that was just me.
Well, you know what I dug? What I dug was and what a lot of religious folks would not dig at all. Right? I don't know if my lady could even sit down and watch that part because she is religious, right? Now the thing is this: Sammy's father. Okay, the whole shebang went down. Sammy came back to his father with that guitar in his hand. The father's trying to get him to let go of that guitar. That kid was holding on to that guitar like it was Excalibur, right? And he had the war scars to show what he was through and everything. And the father's like, let go of the guitar, and started praying with him. And I'm saying to myself, wow, this kid ain't bucking because that kid believed enough to pray. When Remick, who I call Pan the Music Demon, had him in his clutches and did the prayer with him to show him
that was powerful.
No power.
That was powerful. That was powerful. So I'm looking for a picture, and I want to co-sign what you're saying, bro. There's a picture where after the big conflict with Remy, the vampire, right? The preacher boy goes back to the church to seek out his father.
Right.
And he shows up, and it's ill because I'm trying to find this picture of the church because I put it in here. Hopefully it pops up faster than not. He looks like he's holding a sword.
Yeah.
Instead of holding a guitar.
Right.
It looks like he's holding a sword.
Yep.
And guess what? So the battle for good and evil, everybody thought was stacking smoke, right? When to me, stacking smoke was the instrument.
Yeah, the Gemini twins, yeah.
Yeah. And the real battle for good and evil took place between Sammy and Remy.
Yes, it did.
So as the movie opens and it's in the church and you see Saul, shout out to Saul Williams, my old partner. Shout out to you, man. Yo, glad to see you coming up on that, man. You deserve much more acting roles, bro.
Word.
You're dope. You was dope
Facts.
now. Fire to you. Fire to you. Yeah. Shout out to all my poets that we used to run with back in the day. I hope all y'all find success because y'all are some talented people. But so he has the, and we're jumping, right? I had a whole layout, but let's jump. Who cares, right?
Jump.
Let's jump. So he fights the battle with Remy. Obviously, I hope I'm not ruining this for Brother Mozzie, but
y'all good, man.
Sammy wins by the hair of his chinny chin chin. Actually, the way that Sammy wins was real symbolic because the bass of the guitar flies and cracks Remy over the head.
Yeah.
And that's how he defeats him. But what was ill that brother Luck brought up was the fact that they was both saying the Lord's Prayer. And Saul, the preacher, was using it one way.
Yeah.
And Remy, the vampire, was using it the exact same way.
Yeah.
So that Brother Mozzie, that was real symbolic of how
devil knows how to pray too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So that was real symbolic about how, Christianity was used back in the day as a propaganda tool. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And you see, I look at it like this too, right? And again, no offense to anybody who's religious, but I look at it from different angles because I don't see myself as religious. Not saying it doesn't have its purpose and help towards people, right? But religion, in terms of the way they believe in the pages in the Bible, the words on the pages and everything. And you see, Mr. Moore believed in those words, and his son was raised to believe in those words. And his son was trying to use those words as a protective shield against this monster. You know what I mean? But the thing is that Remy showed young Moore, the singer, that his foundation was weak. That's what happened. His foundation was weak because he was basing it on allegorical characters. So it's like you're trying to hold up steel with plastic. He says, come on, dude, really? I could do the same thing. That ain't gonna help you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That ain't gonna help you. This right here, this allegorical stuff, characters that were made up, stolen from your ancestors' land, and misconstrued it in different languages, and created new characters, extracted even the toughest text out of the recreated scriptures. You know, like the Council of Nice and all this stuff they took out of it. It's even weaker than it originally was after it was mistranslated. Like,
right. Hey, Brother Mosley, there was a behold a pale horse moment in the movie too.
Really?
Yeah, I'm about to show it. I'm about to show it to you. There you go, right there.
oh wow,
Interesting.
nice, crazy.
Yeah. So and this happens. They didn't show that pale horse before he had to battle with the vampire demon. They showed it after.
Right.
So there's an old proverb, or there's an old it's not proverbs. It's an old adage in the Bible. It says that Judah had to wrestle with an angel to become Israel. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Judah went into the woods, had some sort of pilgrimage to the woods, and wrestled an angel. And after many, many days and many, many battles, came out reconfigured as Israel, right? And this right here was ill because it's almost like he's Israel after the battle with the fallen angel. And then, of course, he comes and he's just pulling up on the church right now. And that's his face. And that's what's in his background over his shoulder.
That's deep.
And a lot of people thought he was like humbling himself to come back to the church. When really, if you look at the church and you look at the scene when he was outside of the church and the way that he was holding the guitar looked like a katana. It looked like a sword.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it almost looked like, I love you, Dad, but I got to do my own thing. I have this information that I have to act on because I went through this experience that grew me up a little bit. Because what a lot of people miss about the movie, it's a coming of age movie for Sammy.
Right.
He experiences so much. His first love affair.
Yeah.
His first, he got on stage for the first time and performed for a lot of folks, and it was a lot of firsts for him. You know what I mean? First time he had a near-death experience battling somebody, and this movie was layered with so much. One of the Easter eggs of the movie, again, when Remy got sliced up by the bass of the guitar, flying him and cutting him in the head, was that gave me Sister Aurora. What did you think? That gave me womb vibes of like a womb. What do you think? Because the base of the guitar was round and it was shiny, and when it detached, it flew off and cut him down.
Right.
It made me have a thought like, this is Gaia, this is Ma'at, this is, a motherhood earth situation, because you think you can birth an entire race of people through biting them, when the real way to do it is through the woman, through the womb. So it's
I didn't see that
interesting.
part, but
When he got killed.
yeah, I
when Remy got killed, when the
Right,
when
I
the
remember
ground
when he,
base of the guitar
that's how it became,
slides and cuts him in the
right.
head, you know, and
That's how everybody else
ultimately,
drops. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, what did you think of that, Luck? Did you see that there?
I got my thoughts on it. My thoughts on it is more like, again, referring back to the Bible stories, David and Goliath, the slingshot.
That too, that too, that too.
Yeah.
But I thought because it was round and it was obelisk and vampires are supposed to be impervious to bodily harm if it don't have nothing to do with steaks, vinegars, and all of that. But the base of the guitar, shaped like a womb, comes and cuts money down. And then
It
also,
could be.
But I thought it was pure silver that, you know,
pure
they were
silver,
using
there
that.
you go. And
That
then
they were using
also,
that adage.
that was the same point of the guitar that was referenced when he had the major music scene in the movie where there was the transverse through generations, the generational transverse. So do you think that that object became like sanctified at that moment?
It just came legend. I mean, it just, to me, I thought it was just showing like legendary. It's not, you know, it's something that we've always embraced, and you know that music embraces it, or unifies everything. So
Yeah, you know, you know, I look at it as the guitar became the Excalibur.
Yeah, there you go. There you
And
go.
the silver, you see with the silver flying in dude's head? I think you're onto something because, again, I think you're onto something because you've practiced in some of these ways of living. You know what I'm saying? Like during the time with the Shrine Smai Tai Wee and all that stuff you guys, you and you know, Sister Queen went through. So this guy with a similar mindset that the both of you got from those experiences, it could have been in the movie without him even being aware that what he was doing, but everything he does in the movie is coming from his cultural background.
right,
It's
it's
just
purposeful.
interwoven. It's interwoven in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think you're onto something, and I think I'm onto something too. I think with the carnal eye, it's gonna look like a David and Goliath spin. You know what I'm saying? But with a more like spiritual, Al-Kibulan spirituality eye, it's probably gonna lean more towards what you're talking about. You know what I mean?
Cause why did that part fly out of nowhere and just decapitate dude?
Of all things.
Of all
Of all
things.
things. Of all things. Like
And then
this
that
just
was the
don't happen.
instrument that charged that entire grand energetic frequency scene in the juke joint, and everybody was in such a
frenzy,
frenzy or ecstasy or whatever you want to say it. They were really in tune with each other during that moment, and I could see that particular instrument being charged. You know what I mean? You know that I thought that was very symbolic.
And you know what's so crazy? That instrument and his belief in the prayers from the books of the Bible had one thing in common. In his context, in this context concerning the way this story went, is that they were foundationed in misled. Because when you think about it, originally he thought the guitar was a guitar from who it was, I believe a great
a great jazz artist,
right? And then he found out that it wasn't true, right?
Yeah.
And then he believed these words that he rehearsed time and time again with his father, that he memorized, internalized, that he was able to say it at his greatest need. He thought that those words from that book was going to do it, and it didn't. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of a lot of dualities, you know. And you know what's crazy too? Your eye with the white horse. You know what I saw in the beginning of the movie? And I'm gonna be honest with you, Vic, I didn't pick up on it until tonight, right? Because originally I didn't get to see the first part.
The pale horse in the movie?
I'm comparing it to your pale horse. Check this out, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Originally, when I saw the movie, I came late. So I was late by a few minutes, so there was a particular scenes I might have missed, right? So I went on the app today and I said, let me just look at what I missed. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, when when Hogwood, the KKK Grand Dragon dude, right?
Yeah.
First came to the land, that, you know, he was late. The brothers were
the
on
opening
time.
scene. The opening thing.
Yeah, the opening scene, right? Yep, that scene, right? Blue, I was gonna say blue and red.
Smoke
Smoke,
and
smoke and
Stack was
stack.
red, and
Yep, and
Smoke was blue. Yeah.
Smoke
smoke was
stack.
blue. So what's cool is that they were there on time. They disputed one stereotype, right? This is a multi-layered scene as well. Just because of this, they disputed one thing about black time, about us being late. The Grand Dragon was late, right? And while the Grand Dragon was pulling up in his car, they focused on the light pole, the electrical cord pole, and it was a cross. And then his car rides in, and I was just cracking up. I was like, "Yo, the burning cross." They're trying to clue us in that, yo, there's a Grand Dragon coming through. You know what I'm saying? And then when he comes in, he does, and then the rest takes off from there. But I just saw that, yeah, there was a lot of like little,
Because in the beginning, the Native American theme jumped up there, and so that's where I first saw the pale horse, and I said, okay, they're chasing evil, and most likely, Native Americans always knew how to chase evil, and
when they were when Remy first came on the scene,
right, and then when they get to the door and they're telling them don't let them in, but the people done already let them in, so.
Yeah.
But it was, but it was the Native Americans were like, look, we're looking for this, don't let them in. And they already had him in hiding because of what he looked like and not because of who he was. And that's when you learned from the very beginning that you can't invite them in. And so that's why I thought it was cool when they did go to the juke joint. And they think that they can go anywhere, and if I just tell you I love you and love and peace, man, that you're gonna open the door for me and let me in. Okay, well, that's not the case,
Right.
And that was that whole thing.
What did y'all think about Delta Slim, played by one of my favorite?
Yes, Delroy Lindo.
Delroy Lindo. That's one of my favorite. And did he play this role, or did he play this role? Oh my gosh! And if you look at online, I was gonna play him talking to Ryan Coogler about the role. He was just so into trying to get the role right, and I think he struck a really dope chord, Brother Mozzie, because what he did in this role was he didn't play the bitter musician who didn't make it and couldn't make anything out of his life and himself. He played the mentor to the young buck that he knew had this outstanding talent and just needed to bring it out. And I love that part. I love that. Because, nowadays you get a lot of generational bickering and people not wanting it. But he opened the door.
He should get an Oscar for that. He sure did.
Yeah, he was like, go ahead, young man, sing your song. And then that led to the biggest scene in the movie, where they did all of the spiritual, transcontinental gatherings and aggregated it all. And that was fabulous. That was fantastic. I'm not even going to talk about that because there's just so much symbolism in that one moment.
Right.
But I love the way that Delroy Lindo played the mentor for the young man, Sammy, and trying to get him to open up, learn about life, explore the musical gift that he has.
Yes, go away from here. Yep.
Yeah.
Y'all
talk to that, man. I love that part of the movie.
It was like a rite of passage because not for nothing, he wasn't making it easy for the young boy at first. Remember, the young boy first pulled up.
He's right. Earn it. Yeah.
Right.
That's what he was telling him. You gotta earn it.
Yeah, so it was a rite of passage.
The young man had that gift.
Yeah.
Man, you like,
gotta get out of here. You gotta go out on your
young man rumble.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how, like, in a few hours, it went from tough getting to know you to I will sacrifice my life for you. You know what I'm saying? It was just crazy. It was just crazy.
That's exactly what he did.
Oh, man, just crazy. That was so crazy. And to see, man, I could get so deep into this.
There's a lot. I mean, hey, look. Let's look at the choice. Let's look at the choice.
Man. It's a lot because the whole.
But it goes back to your village. Your village raises a child, right?
Yeah.
With Lindo's situation, the village raised a child, right?
Yeah.
So he was doing his part, And then
you
he
had the
showed that they had to protect him.
what did y'all think about the snake situation?
I loved it. I loved it. You know,
What
that
did y'all
was
think
just
of the
great.
symbolism of the snake?
Yes, when you
Yeah.
when you showed, he had to stab it right in the head. Okay.
Yeah. You know what I liked about it?
Snake.
What I liked about it was the symbolism there too. Again, it's back to the snake in the garden. You know what I'm saying? Back to the snake in the garden.
With the
And
three banjo players.
Hey, brother Mozzie, what number is that snake making with his body?
Oh, dope. Nice. I ain't
8.
catch that.
8.
The infinite number.
The infinite number.
The
infinite number.
Yeah, infinite number. You know.
So y'all could tell me if I'm wrong, but you know, if you have a through line on infinity, that was like a foreshadow for a through line or an infinity or some sort of traverse to happen.
I'm glad you saw it because I didn't, and I will say that you're right because guess what? In this movie, everything had a purpose.
Absolutely.
And right, according to Ryan Coogler, you're right. Everything had a purpose in the movie.
I didn't even hear him say that, but I'm telling you, everything had a purpose. I could see it.
No, he even said he used like 4 different lenses to film the movie.
Oh wow!
And even like in her kitchen, that was an apothecary kitchen, and you know, when y'all see she was practicing voodoo, she was practicing old religion Geechee, you know.
Yes.
This is how you take down these things and you put it in. So it wasn't that; it was just solely like, you know, we all sort of ran to, okay, this is voodoo, but that was old family wisdom, you know, honoring the earth and using that stuff to keep things away from you and stuff like that, you know.
And what's beautiful is, once again, now that you brought that up, Sister Aurora, that segued me into another school of thought right now in the moment. Is again, we go back to Preacher Moore and his singing son Moore, and the father tried to give him the best that he had to offer was the scriptures from the good book, right? But here it is, those scriptures, those prayers didn't protect that young man at a time when he really needed it. He felt like he needed it. But, and there's a big but, what that sister Annie was doing for Smoke, protected Smoke in Chicago when they was going up against Al Capone and all of them.
That's right.
Protected Smoke that night when it was taking on Pan the Music Demon. It protected him. The only time it stopped protecting him was what? When he wanted to go and be with her and the child, and he took it off and threw it away. So he can no longer be protected.
Yep.
Well, what was symbolic about that moment is he was getting ready to pass away. He was moving on.
Correct.
So he might as well say, let me be bare. Let me be who I am, and move. And I love that scene. I wish they would have allowed them to live. That would have been better for me.
Talking about Smoke? Smoke and Annie?
Smoke and Annie and the baby. I wish they would have allowed them to live. You know what I mean? Because he didn't even know that was going on with her.
Right.
And it was like a gift almost. It was a gift and a curse because he was going to the ancestral plane to be with them. But then again, he was caught up in, you know, he mowed down all the KKK dudes.
Right.
Oh, we can't just glaze over that.
No. We're going to get to that. I was just saying that particular piece of symbolism was powerful.
Indeed.
That particular piece of symbolism was powerful. So let's get to it. So Sammy had the battle with the big evil the night before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he was left with the man with the iron mask, Brandon on his face, right?
Yeah.
After the encounter, because of course the sun rose as he was going through his struggle with the big bad with Remy, right?
Right.
And then the next day it was Smoke's turn because Stack had passed away. Stack was already corrupted. And man, now that was Django. Now that was Django all over.
Yeah.
That was Django for sure.
That was it right there. That was it right there. That was let me tell you something. Khalid Muhammad would have
took out the Tommy guns, boy. I was like, ooh.
Khalid, the late great Khalid Muhammad would have absolutely popcorn on that one.
Yes.
Because I remember what Khalid Muhammad said.
Khalid Muhammad moment. You're
I
right.
remember what he said. I remember what he said when he saw Sankofa. And he said, yeah, when she put the cutlass in that slave master, and it was almost like the blood fell into my popcorn, and I just kept chewing.
Khalid Muhammad was a whole problem, man.
He was,
here's the Easter egg that most people. Here's the Easter egg that most people about the movie that most people didn't pick up on, or maybe you didn't. Maybe this is why I got so many panties in a bunch and wedgies, right? It was released on Easter Sunday purposely.
I didn't know that part. You just enlightened me.
What y'all think of that?
You just enlightened me. I didn't even know that.
With all them people that were at the box office after service then.
Word.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I had to stand on a line. Okay.
Word. Because it made 60 million that day.
Did that purposely. He said I could have bought that out anytime I wanted, but I did that on purpose.
Wow.
Fancily clad people were on them lines.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know.
I thought that was interesting. So
I think that's why this is why Ben Stiller. I think this is why Ben Stiller ended up coming out and defended this movie, because Ben Stiller was like,
"Oh, what did he say? I didn't even see it."
Oh, Ben Stiller goes something like this. He says, "I don't understand why this movie even has critics." He said, "Here it is, a movie that was made with $90 million and made $60 million in its first weekend. 60. And the critics want to say that this movie is flopping." He was like, "This movie's a success
globally."
Yeah, and the real story is it's the number one movie in America, definitely in America, and arguably in the world by now. But it's funny that he had to come up and step out and defend the movie. He felt like he needed to defend the movie. You know what I'm saying? And now that you added some more context to it, you said the movie came out on Easter Sunday, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's a Good Friday for those on that Northeast side.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but there it is. There it is. Yep. They were pissed off that they launched this movie on Easter Sunday. And because of that, it shows scenes where the kid believing in the Bible scriptures and the father instilling it in him and it failing when he needed it. In this movie context, it failed him. I think they were pissed off about all that.
Look, I went on Friday and that line was big. When I dropped my daughter there Sunday, there's a lot of fancily clad people, okay, on that online going into that theater to see Sinners. So.
Look at the context you just put that in. Fancily clad people going into the movie theater to see Sinners.
Fancily clad, they took out them Easter wares, okay,
right.
That Sunday goodies, and they were in that movie theater. Okay. Okay. I dropped off a child and I picked her up, and the line even got longer as the time went on later. Okay. Anybody went home, they went to the diner first, ate up, and then they went on to the movies after service.
Got them cheese and Welch's cheese, egg and Welch's grape. Huh?
Thank you. They did all of that. All of that on Easter Sunday.
Crazy.
Got on that line to go see that movie. Okay.
Crazy.
Hey, let's get into Remy. Let's get into Remy, because you got into Boss Hallgood, right? Who the KKK Grand Dragon, who kind of deceptively sold the twins the juke joint, right? And this guy had Remy. So the way that he comes on the scene is he kind of drops into the camera view, and he's on fire.
Yes.
He's smoking.
Yes.
So what symbolism did that bring up for y'all right away? I know what I thought, but what did y'all think about right away?
I thought somebody figured out that you had to either burn the vampire or kill him. So you had to burn for the devil to die. So that was one of those things, because then they were looking at him like, and I was like, oh wow, that ain't nobody trying to put him out, but they was on fire.
Yeah. What were your thoughts, Godspeed? What did you think of him? Kind of like almost looked like he was dropping out of the sky,
Right.
on fire, on smoke,
Uh-huh.
and then he ran. Then he ran to the residence of the people that he eventually corrupted, right?
Yeah.
And got and got them to let him in. And of course, you know, he kind of corrupted them too. So
Now,
he was all bubbly and burning.
Now, okay, so what I would say is this, right? Bible again. It's back to the Bible again. Okay? This was during the times of Revelations. All right?
That's what that whole movie was.
He took an L. He got defeated by some Asiatics. He took an L by some Asiatics. So he must have flew because he flew. Because we've seen him levitate before. Afterwards in the movie, right? But put aside all that. He took an L. He got sent out of heaven. And he got sent to earth. He's a fallen angel. He's a fallen angel. He's a fallen angel.
That's what I thought too.
On the planet to corrupt man. The gods rebuked him. The gods rebuked him. And then he went to earth to corrupt carnal man. He went to corrupt man. And he corrupted man in the form of that couple, man and woman. In that one scene for symbolism's sake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also, too, I keep calling him Pan the Music Demon, right? And that comes from more of an Islamic thing, Pan the Music Demon.
No, I'm with you.
No, not you. I'm just to the crowd, right? So, boom. Who had the greatest voice in heaven? Was it not Lucifer?
Yeah.
Pan the Music Demon, Lucifer, same folk. You know what I'm saying? In this context, you know? So that's what I got from it is that he got his ass kicked by the Asiatics. He was on the run. The guys had him on the run. And the indigenous folk, the natives pulled up. And I was like, all right, that's close enough. You know what I'm saying? That's what that was.
Yeah. And it was interesting that they were chasing him too.
Oh,
so he was on the run from them. So
they were hunting him down.
Whatever they were doing, you know what I'm saying? It was like
General Muck.
Manifest destiny.
Vic.
You could come in these lands, but you might lose your head. You might lose your head top. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yo, Vic.
You could come over here and act.
They used to cut the head off. I'm
gonna throw you a football, Vic. I'm gonna throw you a football.
Symbolically, he was getting his head cut off at that moment, unless they let him in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yo, Vic. I'm gonna throw you a football. General Muck.
They were saying.
Yes. What did y'all think of them intertwining the Robinson and the Lost Sound with Sammy doing his thing at the juke joint?
But remember, even that road right there looks more like a cross. Someone preserving him as well.
And for all my audiences that don't know, there was a legendary jazz musician, blues player, Robert Johnson, and supposedly he went to the crossroads, wherever that was, and made a Faustian deal with the devil to become this legendary.
This became his folklore song.
Yeah,
you know?
and he was searching for a missing note, and it was like driving him crazy that he couldn't find it.
Professor Jinx told us about that one.
The same way that Sammy was trying to find his freedom and liberation as a young man, going through his coming of age experience, and wound up in those situations. And of course, Kugler was real dope with his use of color. And of course, he talked about, so if you're thinking about Ifa and you're thinking about red and blue, Chango is red, the stack.
Yes.
Yeminya or Legba is, or Olokun is blue, smoke. And they basically played those characters out to a T.
Yes, they did.
And it reminded me of Cain and Abel, Esau, Jacob, the Abini twins of the Yoruba tradition. If you ever seen the Abini twins, they're very culpable during that situation. And guess what their names was? Elijah and Elias Moore. Somebody talk melanin to me, man.
True indeed. More. Indeed,
More.
indeed. That was the
More.
Moore family. Yeah, they were
More.
Moore. Yep. And we don't mean
Very
Roger Moore.
interesting stuff, man. I
We don't
thought,
mean, and we don't mean Roger Moore, and we don't mean Demi Moore. We mean Moore.
I mean, more like Mauritania. You know what I'm saying?
That's what we mean.
Or more
That's what we
Tyree.
mean.
You know, that
We
type
mean
of.
this. We mean this flag behind me.
Yeah, you know, I thought that was real ill, and the infusion of the native folks.
Absolutely.
You know, they was getting busy. They was trying to look classy and civilized. Now we trying to take this dude.
They trying to hunt.
Have you seen him? Have you seen him? Have you seen this little smoking demon running around? Because we trying to take him out for.
They were about it, son. They was like, yo, it was about it.
Yeah, man.
They were about it.
Hey, wow, we are way over. I was enjoying it.
And you know, we could keep on going. We could have kept on going.
I know. We could have done another hour. This movie was phenomenal.
Because I had one thing I wanted to touch on, but I'm not going to touch on it now. Next time around.
No, go ahead. I'll give you the last word, and we could build.
Well,
on
no,
it.
you know what it is. Like, I had, you know, how could I put it? I get a soft spot every time I see something concerning brotherhood. You know what I'm saying? It always hits me right here.
Yes.
Always hits me. Because of who I am with my brother. You know what I'm saying?
No, that was dope. And the care the care that they had for each other. Like the brother wouldn't stake the other brother.
Yeah.
And he said, make sure you take care of family.
That right
That's
there.
my only condition. I know I'm not going to because I know what I'm here to do. I'm here to take tops off. I'm here to take these tops off. So I'm not going to be around too much longer.
Yeah.
But now that you were corrupted, I need one more thing from you as my brother. Don't disrespect our family.
Yep.
And he lived up to it.
He lived up to it.
Great to see. He didn't fall for a bag.
Yeah.
And Stack was all about the bag. Remember that?
Yeah. And this is what got them in trouble.
All about it.
This is what got them in trouble. This is what got them in trouble.
Right. Exactly. So, man, so dope. I think I'm going to do a part 2 to this because there's so much to get to. I didn't even talk about, like, the major scene in the movie with the music and how reminiscent that was of Robert Johnson. I didn't really touch on that too tough. I wanted to explore more of the Delroy Lindo relationship with Sammy. And it was so dope, man. There was so many things that I could have talked on. And we didn't even get to the church versus the juke joint symbology. There was a lot of symbolism between what the church represented and what the juke joint represented for the very same people.
Yeah, you're right.
And I didn't even get to that yet. So, but it's 10 o'clock. Great episode, y'all. We appreciate everybody that tapped in. We appreciate all. Damn. Okay. We appreciate all 1,500 people watching.
Nice.
Love y'all for it, man. Love y'all for it.
Nice.
Please support this movie. If you want more movies like this to come out, talking about our native experience, giving our narrative, then please support this movie. Go see it over and over and over. Pay for it the first time, but then second time, do what you will. I'd pay for it 5 times. I don't care. That movie's dope. You know, I don't come across, with my cynical self, I don't come across a lot of movies that really get my goat because I see right through it. I even laugh at some of it. But this one was hitting on all cylinders. It almost seems like me and Ryan Coogler could sit down and just have an ill conversation. You know what I'm going to do, Godspeed, and Brother Mozzie, if you're still on? I'm going to go in Ryan Coogler's DM, and I'm going to ask him if he wants to come on for an interview.
That'd be dope.
I don't know if he's going to respond. I doubt it. I doubt it, but I'm going to try. You
never know. You know. And you know what?
Right, you never know.
You're just putting wood on the fire. Even if you don't catch him right now in this moment, you might catch him. If you start doing it now, you might catch him in the next moment because he got another one coming. We know that.
Yeah. That brother's dope. His vision, his perspective is really, really unique, and you know he's unapologetic with the way that he speaks up for our folks, and is not afraid to show. And I didn't even get to the diversity of it all. Because you had the Asians, you had the, you know what I mean? You had the white folk, and I didn't even get to the hegemony of the time period where you had Remy representing the immigrants and the Europeans and that whole World War I, World War II conflict.
Yep.
Along with the twins. And then you also had the the world was at a power struggle at the particular time. World War I, World War II.
Absolutely.
And America rose out of those time periods to be the dominant force on the planet.
Yep. The Nation of Islam was just rising. The Nation of Islam was just being invented.
And Remy was a Irish immigrant.
Yep.
For all intended purposes.
No,
Running from all of the war-torn stuff going on over there, or whatever his vampiric experience, kind of put him in line with. You know what I mean? But we'll get to more of that. If y'all want to do more of that on Wednesday, we'll get to it. But I gotta say peace. Y'all walk with power. Y'all make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the show. Tell a friend. Turn on your notifications so every time we can have a Real HD show, you can tap in and like we did tonight, have a higher discussion. Peace, y'all. We out.
Peace.